What's up, Inland Empire? Manny Sandoval here with IECN. This is Inland Insight.
I'm Denise Berver.
And today we have a guest by the name of Christen Irving of Irving Media Consultants. And she is a guru when it comes to revenue sustainability in the Inland Empire. Christen, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, and I know you have a couple big events coming up that Denise and I are going to ask you about that have to do with revenue sustainability. You'll maybe share a couple of tips that, you know, any business owners, any entrepreneurs could use. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about Irving Media Consultants.
Sure. So Irving Media Consultants started in 2020. Actually, it started with the shutdown of the pandemic. So as the world was shutting down, my business was opening and blooming. My first client was Black Voice News, so you may recognize my face. I've been in a few things as a stand-in, not a journalist, but a very big supporter of local media, and that's kind of where it was birthed from. I started out as an Uber driver, and I was given an opportunity with Dr. Paulette Brown-Hines to become a part of her team, and from there I was able to start my business. So I've been going 6 years strong now.
That's awesome.
I just have a quick clarification. So you gauged Paulette's interest with Black Voice News in revenue generation. How did that come about exactly?
With Paulette in revenue generation?
Yeah, for Black Voice News.
Oh, so funny story. So I started out as a project assistant or associate. So I didn't start out actually in revenue, even though I have a background in sales. I've been with PHP Agency, Primerica. I learned a lot of my sales techniques and training that I share with a lot of my clients from there, because they bring in speakers from all over the world. And when I started working with Paulette, I actually got hired without an interview. Someone else brought me in, and that person, I guess based on their credibility, she hired me on. And we were on a call one day. We were working on the 2020 census, and someone was asking us to share who we are and our background. So that was the first time she got to hear my background, and I was talking to her about grassroots marketing and how I had some history in that, as well as with doing MLM, marketing and sales. And her head kind of tilted to the side. I tell this story all the time, and I was like, she just had a thought. And so from there, as we were participated in some accelerators and some labs and workshops, and she saw me kind of take charge and spearheading, just leading, making sure that we got things completed and that the assignments were understood. And because I did have certain somewhat of a background in sales, some of the things I thought about and I helped the team think through. And so she asked me if I would like to be her director of revenue and audience engagement. So I'm like, absolutely, yeah, let's do it.
That's pretty cool. And it's really says something about you that you impressed her initially, because she's hard to impress. She's got the credentials and she's definitely established. So that says something about what she saw in you.
Oh, thank you.
So taking that back before the official formation of Irving Media Consultants, what were you doing before that? I heard you planned some interesting things, including a jazz fest.
I did. Who told you? Yes, my late husband and I, we did a jazz festival. We launched in 2007, actually, right after the birth of my youngest son. He was born in June, and we launched in September that year. And then 6 months after that, we didn't even wait a full year. We did our second one, because our first one was very much a learning curve. I felt like a crash course in entrepreneurship. We didn't promote until 2 weeks before the event. So we had about 100 people, including the vendors and the bands and the family. Like, there was nobody there.
Everyone learns though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, it was a good learning experience. My heart was in my feet, but from there, we did it for 4 years. We had over 4,000 people in our biggest year. No names, just a community event that, and this was before like the internet and social media. So we learned everything from grassroots style. We used to stand in front of the bank and hand out tickets, and we made our vinyl banners with like the vinyl that you buy from Michael's or Joann's Crafts, which isn't around here anymore, but we'd buy the vinyl, and then we would make stencils, and then we would spray paint the banner so that we didn't have to pay the money for, at the time it seemed like so high for us. So we would just be innovative and crafty and figure out ways to get the message out. We made our own little signs with the little door handles from Home Depot.
Oh,
Gotcha.
Yeah, and just cut it out and stand on the corner, and we would just work with the community, and we found the more that we would put it out there and the more that we would do, the more people would come, especially people, because for us, we loved jazz, and we didn't want to have to travel to LA, nothing against any of the other jazz festivals, but we wanted something in our own backyard, something that we could go to and enjoy with our neighbors and the people in our neighborhood, and it really turned out well. We ended up having people coming from all around the world at one point, and we were like, oh my God, someone's coming, like flying in to see our thing. We didn't know it would be that big. So it was really a great experience, and yeah, it's what kicked me off into entrepreneurship.
So obviously, even though the first year you said 100 people, including the vendors, how did you fundraise to get that money? Because even though it was still a smaller event, your inaugural one, there was still some cost. Did you guys pay out of pocket, or did you fundraise a little bit that first year?
No, I guess it was a little bit of both. The fundraising came from my grandparents, Gwendolyn and Juana Simone. They're no longer with us, but they believed in me, and they believed in my husband at the time, and just the dream that we had together. I mean, because the initial thing was for us to create legacy for our children. We didn't want them to have to, look for jobs, or what are we going to do with our lives. We wanted to provide a space and a place for them to grow. And I come from a entertainment background, singing, dancing, acting, like that's what I thought I was going to be at one point in my life. So
which you still perform some national anthems, right, at events?
I just did the national anthem at the 66ers, a couple of 66ers games last year, and I sing every Sunday at my church. So I still do it. It's in my blood. It's in my veins. I love it. But both my sons sing and play instruments, and my sister dances. She just graduated from Cal State. No, is it Cal State Long Beach? Yeah. From Long Beach City College. Sorry, Rachel.
That's next.
Yes. So she's an artist with fine arts and painting. She's got a whole channel, and she's always putting things out there. So yeah, we come from a very diverse artistic background, and we wanted to honor that, and we felt like that would be a legacy that we could pass forward. So.
And one of the main things that I keep hearing when we talk about your consulting is you saying that you help support people's dreams. So how do you do that in practical terms? What are you doing through your consulting that helps people support their dreams?
Well, for me, I feel like I'm sort of an architect when it comes to understanding people's goals and visions, but they haven't necessarily written them down, they haven't drawn them out. It's just like, well, I had this thought, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, right? And maybe, I won't necessarily say, because everyone's a little different, but they may be going in one direction, and I can see, okay, well, if you want to do this over here, have you considered this? Because of my extensive experience in just being an entrepreneur and just a community person, and trying to help people with their visions over time. I told my mom the other day, I'm like, I went through the school of hard knocks. I do have a degree, but it's not in business. Of course, nobody goes into their degree, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, true.
I know some people do, but it seems like a lot of people don't. But for me, I've seen so many different organizations and different people that really are passionate about their craft or whatever it is they want to do, and they, of course, want ownership in, creating a direction or a path for whatever strategy or whatever product or service they see that could benefit the community. Because 9 times out of 10, they're solving some problem, right? So for me, when I say I feel like the architect, I'm like, okay, well, tell me where you want to be. And then I'm very good at working backwards from there and saying, okay, well, if you want this piece, you're gonna need this. If you want this piece, you're gonna need that, And then more in recent times, I've come to a place where I I've met a lot of people, and I fall in love with my community. I show up at events. Sometimes I show up at events just because I really think it's a cool event, and and if I have an opportunity to blast it out on social media, or just tell somebody about it, or bring some of my family members or friends just to like, hey, come and experience this thing, because someone thought that it was important enough to put together. Someone thought it was important enough to want to, 9 times out of 10, most of the business owners that I've known, they're starting out of pocket, like with their own, expenses. Paying for their expenses out of their own pockets, and they might be working and serving somewhere else at someone else's 9 to 5, someone else's business, while they're building their own dream. And I feel like, especially in California, a lot of us are, side hustling and doing things on the side. And my ultimate goal is to see people not to have to hustle on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't that be your full-time thing? Why can't you do your thing all the time? Because if you're doing it enough to where you're creating a revenue, that means there's a need or a want or a desire for it. So if I have the skill set that can support that, why wouldn't I do that for you?
When it comes to organizations in our region and some of your clients, what's one common thread that you see people kind of not necessarily doing wrong, but maybe not taking full advantage of? Or what are those specific strategies that you give people that they can use tangibly that kind of changes their trajectory from their business from a sustainability standpoint?
Well, I would say it's between 2 to 3 things. One, there's not enough collaboration. Sometimes you see things being duplicated.
So, just really quick, I almost feel like that's at the same time, as an audience member at a lot of these events, the collaboration thing almost seems like a popular talking point at this point. Mm-hmm. We hear so many people saying, people working in silos, but you feel like that is genuinely true.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because someone might feel like, well, if you do what I do, then how can we work together? And I feel like, well, you guys know me from the hub. I feel like that's a perfect example, right? We're all technically in the same industry. And if you don't know what the hub is, check out iejournalism.fund.
And there you're also a consultant for the fund as well, right?
Yes, I'm a consultant for the hub.
I'm saying like I didn't know.
We work extensively with Christen through
Every
the hub.
week.
Yes, and we've learned so much. Like we understand how valuable your consulting is, because it has helped us learn things and approach things in a way that we probably wouldn't have thought of on our own, just because we don't have that background in sales. But it goes back to the sustainability and the ability to adapt as needed.
Monetizing the no.
Yes, monetizing the no. Now I can't take full credit for that. I heard that from Bree over at the Community Foundation, so shout out to Bree. But I had already heard the concept before. I just hadn't heard it phrased that way. But it's basically the concept that there is no such thing as no, unless someone is just like, take me off the list. I don't want to hear from you again. Then of course legally we don't want to keep reaching out to them, right? But most of the time people just have what are called objections. If you're not familiar with it, if you're a salesperson, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're not, it's just a term to really talk about people's concerns. And a lot of times I feel like, just with my experience in sales, most salespeople, especially people that are new to sales, don't look at it as meeting the need. It's, I have to reach this goal, or I have a quota to fill, or they're thinking about themselves in the moment instead of what that other person is saying. And sometimes, I'll tell you guys a funny story, and I'll make sure not to mention it, but one of the things that when I first started working with Black Voice News, we had an opportunity to work with a film festival in LA, a well-known, like I heard about it when I was a kid growing up. They called us, they reached out to us, they said, hey, we have an opportunity, we want to advertise with you. And I was so gung-ho on, okay, I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to sell this package at this deal. And this person told me, let's say it was, I don't remember the exact number now, but let's say it was $400. They said, I have $400, that's my budget. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, we can't do it because it has to be $600. And it was like the price difference was so minuscule in comparison to the value that it could have brought, and it could have been a foot in the door for the relationship. But needless to say, I did not make that sale.
So you learned that one the hard way.
I learned that one the hard way, but that's when I say monetizing the no, that's what I'm talking about. If I would have really listened to what he said, even if I had to go back and talk with Paulette and say, is there something that we could have offered differently? Is there another way that we could have serviced them? Maybe they don't qualify for this package, but maybe we can do this over here for them. Just because they called me, they wanted to do business with me, and I told them no.
Yeah.
Like, duh. And so for me, when I talk to my clients, even when I share with you guys, those are the things that I think about when you guys run into certain challenges, even certain ways and phrasing certain things that you say. I'm not going to give away all my tips on here, but
you need to attend the summit, which we'll talk about later.
The summit. But that's one of those things, like, you don't even realize subconsciously, like saying the word appointment. Can we schedule an appointment? Can we set up a meeting? Just something that simple can turn somebody off, and they may not even know, because it's a such subconscious thing, right? Like, who really wants to go to the doctor's appointment or the dentist appointment, right? Because we've associated certain words with certain things. So those are like little tips and tweaks that I've learned over the years from some industry experts, some whose names you probably would know, that I've seen on stage, that I've consulted with, that I've gotten the tremendous opportunities to work with over the years. And I take my notes, and they'll tell you from stage, only 1% of the people in the room are actually going to do, and I'm like, I'm going to be that 1%. And I'll take the booklets home and the notes, and I go back and I study and I read, because the goal is to be a wealthy person. But as I've strived and looked towards how to gain wealth for myself, I've come to understand that it's really not so much about how wealthy I can become, but how much value I can bring. And I feel like the more value you bring to the community, to the people around you that you care about, that you get to know, the wealth is going to come. And wealth is not just monetary. It's it's connections, it's relationships. It's the ability to have access to places you might not have access to, just because the right person, the right place at the right time. That old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that really is, like, I guess that's kind of like my third thing. It's like the relationship piece. Like, relationships are the basis of all sales, of all collaborations, and expanding your business, even revenue diversity, which we'll talk about at the Sustainability Summit. That's really, really a big part of it. And if you ignore the relationships, even if you make a mistake, go back and say you're sorry. You know what I mean? Even if you didn't think you were wrong, or you weren't sure, go find out. Like, go listen. Like, listening is so, 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 so important. And I think it is so underrated and not talked about enough.
And you talk about having a combination of analytical and relationship-driven consulting. So if you're struggling on one side, how do you suggest people try to balance that? If you're more relationship-driven and you forget the analytics, or if you're more analytical and you lag on the relationship side, what advice would you give to people to help maintain that balance? Or don't give us all your secrets, but how do you approach those types of situations?
So for me, it's one of two solutions. AI is becoming big now. I'm still experimenting with it, but it does help to kind of, I actually was experiencing a little burnout a couple weeks ago, and I just sat with Claude, and I was like, Claude, I just need you to just brainstorm with me, just help me out. I have all these things, I need to prioritize them. How do I do that? Or can you give me some suggestions? And Claude was just like, okay, let's do this, and that. So and that's just, I would say, a more cost-effective solution. It doesn't have to be Claude, it could be ChatGPT. There's I feel like there's hundreds of AI things now for different things. So I would say that's one thing, but I feel like the human element is still very, very important. So I would definitely suggest staffing your weaknesses. That's what I call it. So if that's not something you're strong in, bring someone in. there's plenty of high school and college kids that need some training, and it'll make you sit down. It'll make you sit down, and as you're teaching them, it'll strengthen your skill set too, because you're going to go, oh, I didn't even realize we need more of this. We're out of this thing that we didn't count in our inventory, because you're just sitting down to teach that person, and then if that person becomes sufficient in it, and sometimes depending on the teenager, because teenagers are a little different than when we were teenagers, but you can buy them a pizza, and they might be okay, just helping you out for an hour, and a lot of like the younger generation now is very, very tech savvy, and they're very innovative, very smart, and they can come up with some tremendous solutions. And even if it isn't the younger generation, there's a lot of people that are retired that have experience that just want something to do.
Yeah. And those resources are there, and you use your family a lot to help out with your business.
Yeah, I do. I've brought my sons in. I think you guys have seen my sons. My mom has been taking surveys for me at places. My cousins. Because to me, I'm like, we're all in this together, and eventually I would love to see Irving Media become a family company. I mean, right now it's primarily myself. I do have an assistant, and then one of my cousins does work with me, but I would love to see like my whole family be able to, have salaries and show up and in their strengths, whatever that is, whether they want to do some photography or some social media, or or if they want to speak or consult, they have their own skill sets and their own understandings about the world and the way things work. And sometimes it just takes the opportunity for them to be able to do that.
So I'm interested, what did Claude tell you?
Oh, Claude?
Yeah.
Claude just said, why don't you take these things and prioritize this first? Because what I did is I put dates on certain things, and it would say, well, let's work on putting together this proposal, or have you tried this? Why don't you reach out to this person? So it kind of, without getting into any of the specifics, because I don't remember any of them at the moment, but it kind of just gave me direction when I really was lacking it, And just speaking to the analytical piece, I mean, analytics is really has been what has shaped my direction as far as deciding and determining what's working and what's not. And I think that piece is so important. Having analytics and having systems in place will be the difference in making or breaking your organization. You know how I am with the CRM.
Right. You're very organized,
yes.
Which we need, because sometimes you do have so many other things going on, and you are building relationships, and sometimes the practical, the organizational stuff falls by the wayside if you're not actively keeping up with it.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised how easy it is to think that you've got it all in your head until you miss a call or an email, or I thought you were coming and I didn't put that on my calendar. I mean,
that happened to us today.
Yeah, someone didn't show up, and we were like, wait, what's going on? We're here. Where are they?
We said we have Kristen's podcast in an hour and a half. They have 3 minutes to hop on this call with us.
Yes.
But things like that happen often. So.
Of course.
Especially because a lot of us are small businesses and small organizations and small nonprofits, and you're balancing so many different plates, and you're trying to juggle everything, and you can't be everywhere. So that's where you come into play and kind of help people structure and organize and prioritize.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of success stories that you would want to highlight in terms of any of your clients, anyone that you've helped, with revenue sustainability that you're pretty proud of?
Yeah, I want to say really I'm most proud of the work I've done with Black Voice News. I mean, that's where I basically got my start, and we've created some really valuable partnerships without naming names, because I don't know if they would necessarily want to be named, but we've had the opportunity to work with some of the unions locally, some of the healthcare organizations, and really bring value to the community as far as navigating healthcare and being able to highlight certain stories in the community that we otherwise wouldn't be able to without that support and that sustainability piece, and the revenue diversity that I really like want to emphasize. That's why I'm putting together the Sustainability Summit, because it's one of the lessons that I've learned working with Black Voice News is that one income stream is not enough. If you're just relying on grants, that only lasts for so long. If you're just relying on sponsorships or one event to fund your whole entire year, you want to look into what else can you do. Are there donors? Are there individuals that will, support the work that you're doing? There's crowdfunding and memberships. There's just so many different ways to sustain your organization today. And I know one of the things that inspired me to also do the Sustainability Summit was just, I've heard a lot of fear in the last year, especially around the availability of funds, and some organizations are holding back because they're not sure if they should partner with this one or if they should help that one. And at the end of the day, we're all people.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together. We're all trying to make it.
Right.
And if we don't take the time to take a second, breathe, and realize that, and do like our ancestors have done, we made it this far as multi-ethnic, multi-generational people, and we have served one another in different capacities, different industries. It's like, why does that stop? Because maybe there might be people in places that they can control certain things, but they don't determine our outcome. We determine our outcome. And if we collaborate, if we partner, if we come together and say, you know what, how can I help you and how can you help me, and invest and circulate our dollars one to another, then we can win.
Yeah. Which is really a sort of, style that people back historically have used. What can you provide us? We'll provide you this. And it's not all just about bringing one person or one group up. It's about, how you mentioned, everybody winning and everybody sustaining themselves. So I love that, and that's important.
Yeah, and it speaks to the community approach that you take through your consulting. And one thing that stood out to me was when I read Irving Media Consultants is a revenue strategy and media consulting firm built on one conviction. Community-rooted organizations deserve the same caliber of financial strategy as anyone else. So why is that so important to you that people are aware of it, and how do you help get that out there, that you deserve funding too, just as much as a bigger organization?
So for me, I've invested a lot in myself outside of Black Voice News and some of the accelerators and labs and things that I mentioned that I've been, privileged to attend. And there's a lot of information out there that you can pay for, but it costs thousands of dollars to get that information from the people that have it, that know how the system works, how it's set up, everything from investing into the stock market, or how to use insurance as a tax shelter and retirement accounts and trusts, to how to achieve revenue diversity, how to get into the rooms with the people that have the money, so that when they think of someone to do business with, they do business with you. And so that piece that you read, as far as everyone having access to that strategy, because I have been in those rooms and I have paid some of those dollars, I'm like, I know everybody does not have that, and we really should. Honestly, they should teach this in high school.
For sure.
Right.
They should.
One thing that I've always been so passionate about is the financial literacy element, because unless people have parents that have done it, you don't know about it, and everybody is not starting from the same equal playing field. If not everybody knows about simple things like taxes or investments or retirement, 401k, purchasing a house, saving, like all of that stuff, credit cards. That's another thing that gets people, and even businesses sometimes, in a bad position. So man, I think just the value that you're even explaining right now, and the revenue diversity is important, and something that we've been heavy about because of people like you and your assistants. So with us, it's definitely helped.
Yes.
So
and that speaks to the practicality of the things that you're teaching, because you can give these concepts and manifest this or think about this, but what do I actually need to do? What do I need to be doing? And because you started boots on the ground you've seen what works, what doesn't, and how to adapt and make those changes. And I think a lot of it is actually a mindset. So what can you say about that mindset?
Mindset is everything.
Yeah.
Because you can have you can have all the staff in the world, you can have all the money in the world. If you think you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail.
Right.
If you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in your product, you don't believe in your service, then you might want to rethink if you should be the one leading. Because without the correct mindset, you can't move forward. Your mind precedes your actions. Like you're moved by your thoughts, right? So if your thoughts aren't aligned with what you say, and then your actions don't align with your values, then you're really not projecting what you think you are. You know, and people can pick up on that. People see when you don't really believe in what you say. If you're just doing it because, hey, I need a sale today, or, you know, I'm praying this works. You know, I gotta pay my bills on Friday.
Yes.
You know, and well, going back to what I was saying before about investing in myself, that was one of the reasons I began investing in myself, because I felt like as I was talking to people, the things that I thought I was saying was not what was actually coming out of my mouth. And I would have people say, "You never said that to me," and I'm like, "I know, I said this to you," because that's where my mindset was when I said it, you know. And as you elevate your mindset, I feel like your leadership follows, and so does everyone that you support, all the services you provide. It's just really hard if you're not thinking through your strategies, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, I started in entrepreneurship, yes, one, because of my late husband, but two, you know, I thought about my boys. You know, at one point, because my grandparents invested in me, I thought about, you know, I wanted to show them, I wanted to be proud. It was more than just, okay, let me just put food on the table, you know. And having a sense of self and knowing who you are as a person will determine kind of your next steps in life, and how satisfied you are with where you are, you know. Like, even if you're working a 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. It's honorable. I have someone working with me. You know, we need people in different places, in different positions, in different levels of life. But if that's not what fulfills you, if that's not what makes you happy, you should be able to put together a plan to move forward. You know, I'm a believer, and one of the scriptures, it says, write down the vision and make it plain so that they who read it can run with it. And I think people miss the they. It's like other people have to read your vision.
Right.
Other people have to understand your mindset and where you're going and what you're doing. So
it's funny, that makes me think recently, just in the past 2 weeks, I upped my life insurance, and one of my siblings said, I upped it like maybe by 4 times, and one of my siblings was like, you won't even be able to enjoy that money. And I'm like, that's not the point. It's not for me. It's like to make other people's lives better, and it's the them part that you're mentioning right now, and that just kind of clicked with me in like a real way, because it's not always just about ourselves.
No.
And like, I don't think a
it's
lot
very
of times
rarely about ourselves, actually. It's always about the community that we're serving, or our families, or that kind of thing.
I do think, and not to make this like a race thing at all, but like a lot of Black and brown communities, I could be wrong, but most people are used to just like sustaining for what's right in front of them and not for the future. And that's kind of one thing that I've noticed too, and I've seen like just historically, at least on the Hispanic side, it's like, okay, well, you're just focused on the now, but that's also like, you know, if you're able to do more for others, why not offer them that value?
Because the now is often so challenging. It's hard to plan for the future. When you're trying to put food on the table today, you're not thinking necessarily, maybe you are thinking about 3 generations down, but you're thinking, what can I do now? I need to feed the children I have here who are sitting at this table. So you're talking about setting a place for tables down the line, building this. And is that part of what influenced your creating this revenue fellow program and the fellowships and the internships that you are really advocating for?
Yeah, well, it's twofold. One, that's part of it. I want to see legacy local media be sustained for a long time, and For those of you who don't know, there has been a little bit of a crisis in the local media industry in
Tell us.
particular.
A little bit.
So, there are a lot of organizations creating different models and doing different strategies. And with the Revenue Fellowship Program that we developed with the IE Journalism Hub Plus Fund, we did that because, I was hearing from other publishers. Like I mentioned, I go across the nation and go to different conferences, and I remember sitting down across from a publisher one day, and she was like, I have this person, and they're not working the way I want them to, and so I think I'm just gonna have them I think I'm just gonna have them basically be an appointment setter for me, and then I'll just go do the sales calls. And I was like, I had this thought, like, I wish I could help you, but I'm only one person, and I'm like, I'm not leaving Paulette.
Yeah.
So
Smart move.
yeah. So not that they offered. Like I said, it was just a thought, and then it was like it just clicked. I'm like, why don't we train other people? Because like I said, my background is with MLMs. I worked with PHP Agency. I worked with Primerica. I probably worked the longest with PHP Agency with Patrick David. And I learned that you always got to be recruiting, and you duplicate yourself. And I realized that local media did not have a system of duplication for not journalism, for journalists, but for the business and development side, the sales side of journalism. And I'm like, well, why? And I think the other piece too was I came on board as a person that just came into revenue. I was never a journalist, although I've done some pieces recently, more recent times, but I didn't come in with a journalism background. I didn't go to school for journalism. I never in my life thought I would be in or around journalism or working with journalism organizations. So this is a pleasant surprise for me. But that's kind of what, those are the pieces that kind of brought together that intern revenue fellow piece. Mm-hmm. And I want to see, more people placed in newsrooms like myself that are able to go out on behalf of the publishers, because most of the time local media is like one or two people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if you're lucky, you might get a few more, or like KBCR is public media organization, mm-hmm. but still it takes a lot to run, which I didn't realize until I entered into the industry either. And more people need to know, this is a position nobody ever thought about, and there are different programs and other accelerators and labs that are still trying to address that issue for local media, but I'm like, I have the formula, and I was doing it with a whole other agency, so obviously in a whole different industry, but I'm like, why not do that for local media? Why can't we come together and then create, an opportunity for young people who are graduating from college or getting ready to graduate from college, who have all this experience, who are coming out with debt, mm-hmm. and they need a job, mm-hmm. And I've been hearing about that more and more, that there are less and less jobs available for people that are getting bachelor's degrees.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
I can't tell you
degrees.
how many people I went to university with in comms, media studies, and don't have a job in comms. And it's just really sad, because I know they're still carrying, even if it is $10,000 or $15,000 worth of debt, that's still debt. Debt is debt. Don't matter if it's a car or an education. Obviously, with the education, it offers more value than a car that's constantly depreciating. But still, if you can't justify that's a problem right there too. So, yeah. And I do like that. And we, just mm-hmm. to be clear, have brought on obviously a fellow, and mm-hmm. we're yes. We're being optimistic, and it's been going well though so far for us. So
yes, we're excited about the program, and when we heard about it, we thought this is great, because we can't be everywhere. We tried to be everywhere, and same thing with you. You have assistants now, and because you can't be everywhere, you want to be everywhere, you can't. So that helps to learn, to have someone who's willing to come in, learn about the organization, train, and then help sustain it and build on that base. So we're very grateful for your training, for us and for our fellow.
Prior to you, we weren't doing prospecting. That wasn't like a daily or weekly thing at all until the past 2 years. So I mean, for us it was new and like completely, and if we can learn, they can learn as well. So I mean, and I think that's, you know, bringing our conversation into the Sustainability Summit, which is on August 28th in Riverside. What can you tell us about the Sustainability Summit?
So guys, the Sustainability Summit is an opportunity not to just learn from and hear from some really great local experts, including Dr. Paulette Brown-Hines from Black Voice News. That is just one of the many, many organizations that she's helped to establish or sustain. She is the second generation publisher. Shout out to Cheryl and Hardy Brown. They are the original founders of the organization. It's been around for 54 years. But she'll be here. She'll be there at the event. We'll also have Vicki Davis, who is the pioneer of the Rialto Juneteenth Jam every year.
Which is huge. It's a huge event.
They had a whole billboard this past year.
I know.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's cool because I've got to watch her kind of like grow in certain ways, and you know, I feel privileged to call her friend. I don't know if she considers me one, but I consider her friend. Of course,
Let's get her on the line. Hold on.
I know, I'm like, call her. No, I love Vicki Davis. Who else is going to be there? Dr. Krista Steves from Lifeway Church. Claire Jefferson Glippa is going to be there. And she is the executive director of Family Promise. She is a tremendous advocate and is a great sales person. So that's just to name a few people that are going to be at the event. But essentially, the event is to hear from these experts, and then you sit down, and there's going to be a workshop where you actually work on a 90-day plan. So you have about an hour and a half, 2 hours to actually go through it, talk to experts, so you don't have to be stuck and go, well, I thought I might want to do this, but I don't know, what should my next steps be? And you know, nothing towards Claude or ChatGPT, but these are people that are actually out here that are bringing in funds, that are doing fundraising, that are moving the needle towards sustainability for their organizations or the organizations that they work with. So why wouldn't you want to come and help sustain your organization? I mean, between 100 to 110 businesses close every hour in our nation.
Wow.
So that's 21.6% that are closed in the first year, and then almost half that are closed in the first 5 years. Like it's like 48.2%. So you don't want to be part of the statistic. If you're struggling to, you know, put food on the table and keep the business open, why wouldn't you come speak to the experts that can literally help you put together a realistic, like you said, practical plan that you can implement and have some more money in your business. This is about bringing money to your business, and that's essentially what the entire day is about. It's a one-day event. You come, you eat a little breakfast, you eat a little lunch. If you can get VIP, it's worth it because you'll be able to talk more in depth with the people. It's going to be a little more cost out of your pocket, but that's why I said what I said about me investing in myself. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, then you're already on the losing end, because if you don't invest in you, let me tell you something about grants and partners. They don't want to invest in people that don't invest in themselves.
Right.
Period.
Because
if you don't feel like you're worth it,
yes.
Like you can literally, this is a tip for you, but you could literally use this event and say, I invested $150 in making a 90-day business plan so that I can come to you and partner with you.
And to network with high-level people in the region, get business cards with either a phone number or an email address, or both, to have that into your contacts, to follow up with them, maybe even a cup of coffee. That's more than worth it at that point.
And it's the connection building. It's building the connection, meeting these people, hearing what they have to say because they've been doing it for so long, and how it would apply to you. But that said, this is not just for big businesses. This is for everybody, correct?
Yes, this is for everyone. I work primarily with small to medium-sized businesses, so I always, that's who I love, and that's who I lean towards. Am I open to working with corporate? Absolutely. But my expertise and my experience is with small to medium-sized businesses, because I feel like we have different needs. Corporate businesses are usually a little more established. Not that they can't be more innovative or learn some new tips and tricks that maybe they're not hearing at their level because they've been doing it for 50 years, you know. But as smaller organizations, we don't always have the support that we need, and we don't always have the consultants or the money to go buy to learn the strategies. And this is literally one day where you can come learn the strategies, you can talk to the consultants, and you can literally leave with a business plan.
And also talking about the work that people do for a living, I think one of our first sort of workshops with you guys a couple years ago was, what do you do for a living? A lot of people are so bad at explaining what it is that we do, and I think that was one thing that I still remember to this day is like, it's great to find out or find a way to say what you do in a way that sticks to people and sticks with them and making it memorable. And I think, you know, not especially small businesses, but also nonprofit organizations are so great at doing the work. Sometimes it's not always the best explaining it and sharing that information to the public. So I think events like this definitely help fill that gap a little bit.
Or they don't know how to get it out there.
Exactly. And that's the other piece too. We are going to have a social media influencer who's got several 100,000 followers. Her name is Tiara. You can find her on Eventbrite. Go to Eventbrite, look up the Sustainability Summit. It's going to be in Riverside, right there on Main Street, right next to the Inland Empire Community Foundation building, across from Prohibition.
We know where that's
We know
at.
it.
Yes.
We do know.
So it's going to be right there. It's the old Mine and Mill building, but now it's Passionate Studios, and they just acquired it. So, you know, I'm not sure if they have their signage up yet, but we'll be there, and we're supporting them as well for their kind of like opening and grand opening and what they're doing for the community. So I'm really excited. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from it. Even if you just make some really good connections and you leave with a solid plan, I think it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
Are there any books or videos or any pieces of literature that you've come across that you felt was really transformative for you in your life that you would be able to share with our listeners?
Sure. How to win friends and influence people. That was one that was recommended to me by Patrick McDavid, and he says read it every 6 months. Now I'm not gonna lie and act like I read it every 6 months because I don't. But there were some things that I read in there, and I think one of them it was talking about a paradigm shift, and I didn't understand what the paradigm was. If I don't understand something, I'm looking it up.
Claude.
But no, that was before Claude, like with the dictionary and stuff. But that transformed my life because it really talked about looking outside of yourself to find out the type of person that you are projecting yourself to be, and how to come across how you want to come across instead of how you think you're coming across. And for me, that was everything for me because I'm a people person. I love people. I've had ups and downs like everyone else, and I felt like that book helped to restore me because some of the things I felt like I read in the book, I was like, I used to do that, and sometimes when you go from being a teenager to a young adult, into your more mature years, and you look back and you're like, man, I remember when I used to do that, or I miss those things, and I felt like reading that book reminded me of who I was, and it helped me on the path, and it helped me to remember it's like, okay, at the end of the day, smile, talk to people, don't be afraid to be who you are. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the most influential books I've ever read.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's great too, especially for an individual standpoint to take a step back and look at how you're portraying yourself. But even from a business standpoint, that's something that you can do. Because I'm even thinking about us, like when we send this email or when we're speaking in front of a group, how is this statement or is this pushback going to sound, or is this, negotiation going to sound from our perspective when it's, taking that step back and looking how, you might not always be portraying yourself how you think you are. And that's an important point.
Yeah, and as a woman and a woman of color, a lot of times we prioritize everybody else over ourselves, especially even starting a business it seems ambitious, or it should be the priority. So in making that investment in yourself and having the confidence in yourself to say, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is why and this is how I can help other people get that out there. I'm sure that's huge to you to inspire other people the way you were inspired.
Oh yeah, I mean, outside of doing the jazz festival with my late husband, I have encountered so many people who are burnt out.
Mhm.
You know,
Just like half our country, probably.
probably, you know, because I feel like I mean, especially now with like raising prices and uncertainties and, you know, less
People working
jobs
more and having less.
that is hard.
I like how we all did that.
Yeah.
Right. It's real. It is so real. And, you know, and I feel like, especially like the Gen Z, Gen A, this is my personal opinion, Gen Z, don't be like attacking me. You tell me I'm wrong. But just from my observations, I feel like people are losing hope. It's like, well, what am I doing this for? You know, and that's why I say it's okay to be you. You know, I mean, as a revenue person, I have met some people where you need to be very professional, you know, and I match that energy, but at the same time, I'm like, you know, I'm meeting you as a person, and
you gotta keep it real too.
You gotta keep it real,
Yeah.
and I know you're gonna do business with people that you like, so I want you to like me, and I feel like I'm a very likable person.
So if you don't use that, if you don't use the forks or the spoons and silverware from inside to
I
out,
know.
you're fine. You're finding Kristen's book
Yes.
and ours too. So.
I'm not saying anything bad about people that are, you know, come across
Pristine,
more
yeah.
pristine, but you know, sometimes I want to be that, you know, that person, but I just want people to know that it may not be that way.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that you're you. And
Because when it comes to small businesses and also just entrepreneurs, like single person teams, a lot of times you're not getting the most refined person, and that person could also feel intimidated, you know, going to an event like this. So I also want to talk about that. What's your sort of words to that person who might see this or will see it and has never stepped, you know, beyond their comfort zone in front of a lot of different business people? What is it that they can expect? Kind of walk us through this exact event, just to kind of mitigate any sort of, you know, anxieties that someone might have.
Because it could be intimidating to some people. When you have a small business and you're thinking, oh, I don't belong in that room, how do you tell people you do belong in that room and this is why?
And I'm sure you've been in that position before too, right? So have we.
My goodness, I have been the biggest imposter. You know, they call it that imposter syndrome, and the first couple times I heard it, I was like, what do you mean? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
But thinking that you are the imposter, like you don't belong there, and it kind of goes back to like the mindset thing, right? It's like you have to shift your mindset. You have to pay attention to what you're watching, you pay attention to what you're listening to, because believe it or not, that what you listen to influences you, you know. There are some songs I've heard my son listen to sometimes, and I'm like, why are you listening to that? That is not positive. But back to the business owner, at the event, we're going to have some opportunities for icebreakers. Don't run. Don't run.
Everybody hears icebreaker and goes, oh, come on.
It's not going to be cheesy. You guys know, like, Peter's icebreakers.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
really fun. It's really engaging, and it doesn't feel invasive. It doesn't feel like, oh, my God, like, you're going to, you know, you might get put on the spot a little
It'll be
bit.
a fun fact about yourself. Tell everybody a fun fact about yourself.
Stuff
And
like
fun
that.
fact is, I hate icebreakers.
Exactly.
I think we've done that before, actually. The fun fact, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, just things like that, and a lot of times in those settings, because business owners know they'll be networking, you can always wait. I've had people literally that I've walked up to and they're sitting in a chair, because I'm going to be the one person that comes to you while you're sitting in your chair and just talk to you and say hello. And what I tell most people, if they're like shy or they're, you know, a little nervous about meeting people, if you're in business, one, you have to be, businesses are all people businesses, all of them. But the other thing is, you're just making friends.
Yeah.
And then if you look at it like that,
That's a good point too, because I mean, you have the, as an attendee, you have the opportunity to network with the panel, but then all the people in the same seats as you as well, so you're getting double in that regard. So
And a lot of them are in the same position. So
Exactly.
it's very relatable.
yeah.
yeah, so you can just.
And even if they seem like they're 5 positions ahead of you, they're just acting like that, and they're being the imposter right there.
Yeah. Okay, so when we're talking about business owners, small business owners, nonprofits who are juggling all these plates, how do you advise them to take care of themselves? What is your reminder for self-care in order to sustain the business and also sustain themselves? Because this work gets hard.
It does. Well, I think each person's different. I think it's very important, if you haven't had an assessment, know your personality type. Know the personality types on your team. That will help you be less stressed out, depending on how
Or
many
more,
people you have.
depending on the personality type.
Yeah. Because I've used assessments actually to help me kind of read people better, so that I understand how their communication style versus mine.
Okay.
You know, that old adage is like, we all have similar understandings, but we don't have the same understanding. If you ever taken a speech class, you know what I'm talking about. Well, words have similar meanings, not the same. But when it comes to self-care, I say it's one of two things. Do whatever energizes you. Some people, it's good if you go out and you hang out with your friends and you decompress, or you go spend time with your family. Some people, like if you're an introvert and you've just like been around people all the time,
social battery is dead.
Yes.
Crazy is because I'm thinking about that. For me, decompressing is turning that fan on extra fast blast and hitting the bed and taking a long 2-hour nap.
That's what I'm
See,
saying.
on me, a nap, I'm like, no, I will nap later. I need to be out. I need to go do more. And that's how I decompress, is being out with my family, my friends, and that kind of thing. And you would think, you meet a lot of people in our lines of work. So sometimes people do need to decompress by not talking to anybody for a bit and kind of recentering.
Yeah, I've discovered I'm an introvert extrovert. So
that's what I think my personality trait is too, intro extro.
Yeah. So that's why you're like, okay, let me just turn on the fan and let me just go to sleep. Because sometimes I'm just like I'll just go to the beach and rent an Airbnb.
Love that.
And just be by myself for a couple of days. And it's like, and I tell I mainly my sons, I'll tell them, it's like, look, it's not that I don't love you. I love you to pieces. I just need like an hour or like a day or whatever to myself, because that's what rejuvenates me. Like I just want to go and do something fun. I might go salsa dancing because that's like my thing, or skating, or I don't want to go to a party. I'm going to events all the time. That's what I do at work. I need a break, but in terms of self-care too, I know this is kind of like a shameless plug for this sustainability summit, but that is also self-care for your business. Why? Because it's going to help you sit down and be more organized. Because remember, it's not just another conference where you're getting information. You're sitting down and working on a plan. So if you have some documentation, you're working on a grant, bring it with you. Like, this is not for you to just get information, get fat, and leave. I mean, proverbially speaking, not in a literal way, but just to get all this information and just sit on it, and then you don't know when you're going to do it. Like, you're probably squeezing the conference in as it is. You're squeezing the summit in as it is. You're probably like, okay, let me take these 6 hours, 8 hours, but you're going to leave better organized, clearer, with direction. And sometimes that's what you need too in terms of self-care. Sometimes, especially with us small business owners, we don't take the time to sit down and organize. Yeah,
and I can see how that would be self-care, because prioritizing and organizing, we don't always set aside time to do that because there's so many other things to do. So, but then you do it and you're like, oh, this makes my life so much easier when I go back the next week and it's all planned out and I know what I want to do and I have goals and clear timelines. And it's hard to find the time to do it, but once you do, it does alleviate a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So how would you say, when you are really needing to buckle down and focus on something, what strategies do you integrate to help yourself with that focus?
Music.
You're a music person.
I am a music person. I'll put some music, like some earbuds in my ears.
What do you listen to?
I'm really like an oldies girl. Like I love like old school R&B.
Like Art LeBeau oldies, or like
yes, Art LeBeau and the old school shows.
We're speaking the same language.
Art LeBeau type stuff, like old 80s. I mean, I listen to like a lot of R&B 80s. Sometimes I get into like the 90s hip hop a little bit, a little Tupac, some old Busta Rhymes. But I definitely say a lot of the old school, like Art LeBeau and kind of like the lowrider music, and I love all that stuff.
So music in the background help you focus.
Oh no, not in the background, like in some headphones.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So almost like the noise canceling kind of, but it's like no, I just need music because it's like it puts me in the zone. And sometimes I listen to music based on my mood. And if it's like, okay, I need something that's like a little more upbeat, sometimes I might be like, man, like maybe I'm kind of high strung and I just need to relax because maybe I've been a little anxious this week. So it's like, okay, let me just breathe. Okay, let me sit down. Let me put on my slow music and let me do it. So.
Don't be wondering why you have anxiety when you're listening to heavy metal driving down the 91 freeway.
Sometimes it helps. I listen to Rage and I'm like, oh, I feel better now. Like I'm good.
She's all in the car.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. No, that's great. And I appreciate you sharing all these tips. And again, to plug the Sustainability Summit, it's August 28th at
From 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at Passionate Studios. I believe the location is 3615 Main Street in the city of Riverside.
Where can we go for tickets?
For tickets, you can visit Eventbrite. Just look up Sustainability Summit Riverside. It's the Irving Media Sustainability Summit.
And where can we go to learn more about Irving Media Consultants?
You can visit my website, irvingmedia.net. That's IRVINGMEDIA.net.
And before we wrap it up, there was one thing I did want to ask, because I know your children are like obviously a huge part of your life, and you've mentioned and referenced your late husband a couple times, and you creating, Irving Media Consultants, and really being motivated by just your experience up to this point in life. Do you feel like your kids are proud of you and all the work you're doing?
Oh, they have to be. I'm speaking for them now because you're amazing.
Denise said it.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I've had some conversations recently, especially with my older son. He just graduated from RCC, and he's getting ready to go to San Diego State. His goal is to be in the NFL. So once he gets there, then this will go viral. But no, I sacrificed a lot for my boys. I want to see them win, and I feel like if my late husband, I'll say his name, Fabian. So I'll keep calling him my late husband. But if Fabian was here, I know I think he would be proud of me too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so.
Well, I just wanted to ask that to round it all out, because you've come a long way in just 6 years from starting that. You mentioned during those times you were doing a bit more of like gig work to now look at you, which is great to be hosting a full-on event.
Yeah.
We've seen you a couple weeks ago at a disaster Arc of Safety Summit.
Arc of Safety Summit.
I'm remembering it.
Yes.
And that was a huge event as well that you were help coordinating with your consulting company too, right?
Yeah, she's one of my clients. She took me on, and like I said, like people helping people. She is Deborah Williams is such a gem, and she really gave my company an opportunity. She came on as my third client, so she's actually the one that's kind of given me the opportunity to hire someone else, because now I'm like, okay, I have enough money. It's like, okay, well, let me bring someone on to help me with all this workload that I have. But just what they're doing in the community, I told her, and I'll tell you guys too, I don't work with companies I don't believe in. I don't work for causes I don't see purpose for. And I'm not saying that there aren't purposes for all the companies out there. I'm just saying, for me personally, I have to have a vested interest, because if I don't, then how can I honestly, as a salesperson, now I'm speaking from a sales perspective, I have to be able to tell you that I would invest in this too.
Yeah.
Like I'm here at this podcast because I believe in IECN.
We appreciate
I'm a part of Black Voice News because I believe in Black Voice News. I believe in the IE Journalism Hub Plus Fund. And blackvoicenews.com, I didn't say it earlier, I'm saying it now. Check out blackvoicenews.com too, really good news and information. But all of these are organizations and people that I've come to build relationships with and know and learn the histories and the stories, and I'm like, man, like you like these people exist.
Yeah.
And I just sometimes I just sit back in awe of people, like sometimes people watch, like sitting in restaurants and people watch. I watch people in my everyday.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you're going through this and you're still showing up for this call, or I know you didn't have enough to put this on, like through sponsorship, but you're putting it on for yourself, and everyone's having a good time, but they don't understand the struggle that it took you just to get up, to come and show up today and be here, because maybe you didn't have enough. Maybe you're going home tonight and now you're eating beans out of a can, but the community's better for it. And those are the stories that I get to hear, I get to see, I get to experience, and I'm like, I have to help. Like, it's like in me, it's like I gotta help you, I gotta see you win, because you're helping other people win, whether they know it or not. You're helping people build their lives and their experiences and come through just better and stronger and happier or more informed and providing all this value to the community, and you may be going home yourself wondering like, okay, how are we going to be open next week or next month, and you shouldn't have to worry about that.
And it's amazing to see in 6 years you've gone from an Uber driver to the CEO of your own media consulting firm, and you've done it and you've become successful advocating for things that align with your own values. So you're not sacrificing anything, you're building on what you actually believe in, and that's the true meaning of success, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Driving Uber, there were a few times, Paula, I was driving Uber, but I was Paula calls it building the plane while flying.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Paulette said, "Come pick me up and drive us to Black Boy Snooze," and you never went back to Uber after that.
Yeah. It took me a little while to kind of let go because sometimes it's scary. I mean, especially those of you who have gone from a 9 to 5 to to your own business, because then it's like there's no one to blame if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
If you're back flipping burgers, if that's where you started, then you didn't do your part. But it really just comes down to you just standing your ground, believing in it, planning it out, taking the time, staying organized, and moving forward.
And making that investment in yourself.
Yeah.
And your business.
That's
Love
it.
that. Well, Christen, thank you for joining Denise and I.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank you
you again.
guys. Thank you for having me.
Everybody, this is Inland Insight with IECN. My name is Manny,
I'm Denise.
and we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.